and compared to the original presentation, we do actually have quite a bit to talk about in terms of like actual new things.
There's
I
so
will
much.
say we're not going to get into incredible detail with a lot of the things that we're talking about, mostly because a lot of it is still in flux. But we'll a little bit later get into how it will be like released eventually. But anyways, so in terms of characters, this is kind of generally known, but there will be no more rarities, and we're planning to make every single character all be viable and basically only differ with the playstyle that you want in a given moment. So if you like playing some fun support character, you can do that, and ideally that should be as viable as any other character. Uh, and characters themselves will be more in depth as a standard, with abilities being kind of a loose term because it's more just about less about an ability and more about what a character can do, like a combination of passive things and active things. Um, and part of this, on top of like the typical ability that a character would have, there's going to be new formats for gameplay customization in the forms of things that you can basically buy, which is global modifiers, character modifiers, and gear. Global modifiers are things that can be equipped to a certain, well, any character because it's a global modifier that you can buy, and they'll change the gameplay of any character in some aspect. So a provisional example would be like increased walk speed, or for cameras, more lasers before reloading. And I just to reference the little note in the corner of the screen, provisional does not mean confirmed or necessarily related. It's just purely an example. Uh, so and one other thing to clarify with characters is that does mean thief or camera, right? So these modifiers and gear both apply to uh, both teams. But character modifiers are similar to global modifiers, except they're specific to a character. So if you were to open, say, like the inventory menu, you would have the option to modify how that specific character's ability works with character-specific modifiers, whereas the global ones are more general. And lastly, gear are sort of extra tools and active abilities that you can bring uh, a certain amount of, like a handful of them, into a round that can be used on top of the character's capabilities. So that could be like a single-use health pack or a camera ability where you're seeing through smoke. And again, these are provisional examples, not like actual confirmed
Could
things.
I add one thing about gear?
Yeah, go for it.
They're basically like one or multiple time use items, like things with durability. They aren't like permanent gameplay features like a modifier. They are very different and we can be obtained in different ways as well. It's very exciting. It's my favorite thing we've added.
What durability means is that typically they're like single or a couple use. It's not like permanent ability. It's like that health pack, for example, might have like two uses to it or like one use to it, depending on, how good the health pack is. But again, that's provisional example, not necessarily confirmed.
Yeah.
Anyways, on to new thief features. So something that I'm pretty excited about, and then actually this one has been completed, is panic interactions. Uh, in order to fix a lot of the issues with certain things like reviving and stealing being very committal actions, meaning you're kind of locked to doing them and like completely until you finished. The fix for that we've come up with is these panic interactions where if you are actively being looked at by a camera, you can essentially spam jump and make quick jumps in the progress of the interaction to get out of the animation faster so you're able to escape. Which it sounds kind of powerful, but in practice, it will be more like if you just started like stealing something, uh, and then a camera is looking at you, you won't be able to panic out of the interaction in time to live that interaction. But if you're fairly close to the end of it, then you will be able to get out of that interaction, and it will not be so like decimating once you've lost that. Another thing that is possibly a strategy is tricking a camera into looking at something near you so that you can panic and steal an item faster. But there's definitely some counterplay there for when you commit to an interaction and trying to get out of it faster. Although when you are panicking, to an interaction, your character does like a little hop, so it is obvious that you are there. It makes you more obvious. If the camera doesn't already see you, it makes you more obvious. So there's a trade-off. In regards to being downed, there'll be additionally another type of gear that is completely separate from normal gear that I talked about on the previous slide. That is only usable while downed, and it will only be one. So, for example, a provisional example is like a temporary small shield to help players reviving you. So it's less on maybe the conditions that that player was trying to revive you under, and more, oh, you didn't bring a shield, so you can't complain about the person that wasn't reviving you. Something like that. In terms of the health system, we're going to make it 100 based, meaning that instead of 4 hearts, you have like 100 HP. The only reason for that is to, scale damage and have finer control over everything. So, this would still scale with what cameras are doing. So, the base thief might have 100 health, but that would mean cameras do, like, 25 or something. So, it's not like thieves would literally have 100 health. It would just be a upscale in the values so that finer damage can be done. Like, for example, half a heart is possible with this.
Yay.
Anyways, you wanna talk about movement mechanics?
Yeah, for movement, there's new stuff thieves can do. Yay!
Yippee.
There's sprinting and which basically just gives you a burst sprint, which lasts for a little it's very short, but it gives you very quick mobility and then recharges relatively quickly. And then mantling, each map has handlebars set into it that are able to be mantled, which you can shuffle on or pull yourself up to get height. From that point, you can get both of those. They take stamina, which has like a lot of ways to be replenished. Yeah, most namely being just wait for a little. But there's a lot of other methods. Um, yeah, it's kind of plain and simple, but it adds a lot to the map mechanics and also, core gameplay.
Mhm. Yeah, and it would be governed by stamina, so it's not just you can sprint infinitely. It's a quick thing,
Yeah.
which will be used for not just avoiding cameras, but also, traversing the map in more interesting ways, which is integrated into the map's actual design.
Yeah.
So with new camera features, camera players earn assist money, right off the bat. This is more for thieves, but kind of a camera feature. The location switching animation, where the hatch opens up and plays the sound, that has been adjusted such as to give thieves more of a warning. So it's more obvious when you're about to be seen. So when a camera player switches to another location, the other location will immediately play the sound and immediately start opening as opposed to being around halfway into the animation, giving a lot more leeway. And the location timers of cameras are going out the door, and instead there's 3 things coming in to replace them that, uh, cover everything that used to be there, but also add some more and address some issues that people have complained about for a while, like camping and whatnot. A notable one is hatch stamina. So being at a location reduces a stamina bar specific to that hatch, and once it reaches 0, no cameras are able to switch there until it is replenished to a certain threshold. And so if you go to a camera location and it's at full stamina, it will go down. When you switch away, it starts going back up. But if you made it hit 0, it can only be switched back to once that stamina has reached a certain threshold. And this auto switches cameras when it does reach 0 stamina. So it's a way to prevent any camera, not just one switching back and forth, from being in a location too long. Because if somebody is switching back and forth between 2 camera locations, eventually that hatch will run out of stamina and it will have a cooldown and will not have you won't be able to go to it. The other thing to get at this is the hatch timer. So being at a hatch for too long, in seconds, regardless of hatch stamina will automatically switch you away. So the hatch timer would typically kick in before full hatch stamina would. It's purely a limiter for how long one camera is able to be at a location, while hatch stamina prevents all cameras from being at a location too much. And lastly, the AFK timer is pretty self-explanatory. It's just if you don't have any mouse inputs for a while, it'll just kick you from the round. That's pretty similar to what it is nowadays, but this one is actually distinct.
Yay.
You can talk about
Um,
the new camera
yeah, the
location
new
types.
camera location types. My personal favorite, the linked hatches, are just two or more hatches that act as if they were one hatch. Basically, they share stamina, and only one person or only one camera can be in each like set of linked hatches. Someone said this in chat already, but an example of this, if we used IPS2 maps as a base, would be like the museum lobby cams or the dining room and mansion. Those would be examples of what would be linked hatches in the third game. Like, they allow you to see different angles of a room or like just different areas while still sharing the same like stats as a normal camera hatch, or like as if they're one and the same. It's just helpful for, like, balancing rooms, like, if we need it so you can see 2 angles, but don't want the ability for 2 cams to be in 1 room. Just generally stuff like that. So they're very helpful all in all. Um, Another thing is adjacent hatches, which are actually applied to ideally every hatch, but basically, any like surrounding hatch to the one you're in will be highlighted a different color, allowing you to easily switch into what would be the next room over instead of kind of guessing. It's mainly just a quality of life feature to make camera switching easier if you were per se like chasing someone as a camera. You're allowed to, like, easily switch into their room without, guessing, especially if the UI doesn't really indicate it as well.
There has been quite a bit of work on the markers for camera locations themselves to make them more visually clear about what a room is. So, um, they can have there's more colors they can be, there's more shapes they can be to indicate more clearly at a glance without map knowledge what a hatch actually is. So, for example, the whole logic behind adjacent hatches is we wanted people to be able to, at a glance, figure out what the next room over is, which is a lot easier to do now. And
Yeah,
linked hatches also do look distinct. And of course, hatches are red if there's one of your camera teammates is in them, so you know that much. And also hatches that are currently on cooldown for stamina are also colored differently to just make sure it's clear so you can know what's going on. So in terms of new general features, I'm gonna
oh,
let Roxy have this one.
yay. Another new cool map thing is that regions are gonna be distinctified in maps now. Rooms and maps will have, like, designated rooms for lore and call-out purposes. Like, um, what's it? Certain regions are gonna be designated as blind spots. You can only sit in those for a limited amount of time before being damaged, aka preventing blind spot camping. And lastly, on that, names of regions will be indicated to both thieves and cams. Cams, obviously, because that's their hatch switching UI, but there will be UI for thieves to tell them which room they're currently in, and that moves into the next system. There's going to be a pinging system for both teams, which allows for more synergy and teamwork, as you could ping locations and points of interest to whenever you need or wherever you need. That's kind of about it. Not much in general, but they're both very, very big.
Right. And pinging would be for both thieves and cameras, so you can
Yes.
communicate with your team a lot better. Of course, there is still a lot more to talk about in terms of things that we have not mentioned at all, and things there's a lot more details in what we've just talked about. For example, like specifics on how a lot of those modifiers and gear will work. A lot of that is still in flux, and some of it you can ask questions about. But there is some that we don't really want to talk about right now, just because it gets a little bit too into specifics, and we want to experiment with it. I will say a quick note about how we plan to actually launch a lot of these changes, and our method for that will probably take some form of closed access alpha relatively soon, with a question mark on that, because we want to have people immediately start playing the game as soon as possible, but we also want it to be limited so that it's purely just probably core players or people just interested in the game, testing it out and seeing how various gameplay features work. Because there will inevitably be a lot of changes that will come, quite big changes before the full release. Because I do want to get in a certain amount of features into the game before the full release, which then I would consider that like actually properly uh, a 1.0. But yeah, we're gonna do questions now. So let me stop streaming.
Questions. Yay, yay.
I just scroll up a little bit. Okay.
I guess the most important question of all was why there aren't any images on the slide.
Like, we didn't
Yes.
we didn't want to share images.
Yeah. I do want to apologize for the really, really boring slideshow, but we
That's
don't
a silly
have
answer.
the tricky thing with working on programming stuff is the features work, but they're not like super flashy right now because they're super in development. So it's and programming features can be kind of opaque in that there's a lot going on behind the scenes, but not like a lot visually. But there is quite a bit done, and kind of making some good progress on that. Of course, with maps, we showed off a lot with maps. So,
Okay,
anyways,
I can answer one of the questions I just saw.
go for it.
It was the person asking how more nuanced characters would work, like the ones from IPS2. The simple answer is that they will not work like that. Um, their gameplay is going to be different. Like I'm saying purely hypothetical, if we wanted to return that character, their gameplay would work in like no way similar to how it did in 2. Like conceptually it might be similar, but stuff like that would hugely differ from how it does in 2 because those characters are a lot like one note or gimmicky in the sense of they have one thing they can do and that is their core aspect. While in the next game, every character has like a unique skill set to them, you know?
Yeah, one of the huge reasons behind this being a third game and not like a big update is that a lot of foundational changes have to be made with the gameplay, such that I'm not exactly comfortable with overwriting everything that existed before, because it would be changing so many significant aspects of the game that it begs the question of whether or not it should be a third game, which is basically the reasoning that the team ran into when we were originally concepting some pretty large changes. So we felt like that would be the safest bet because we get to preserve what IPS2 is and was, and actually create something new.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Do you have one you wanted to answer?
yeah. Somebody asked about the tutorial map. We probably will not take any submissions for like tutorial maps or anything like that. I will say that the 1.0 of IPS3 will have like a separate interactive tutorial where you actually get to play the game. Although that will not be in like alpha phases, just because we're focusing on the core gameplay at that point.
I saw what um are there thieves plan to have their core gameplay, like their stats, like differing stats as in like we emphasize the 100 HP as a standard among characters, as in it can fluctuate. Like, for example, if we did return Ace, they would have the equivalent of like 1 HP, as in they'd have 25. Um, Characters can individually have different health, different weight capacity, or different staminas. A lot of the numbers can be fine-tuned from character to character, and nowadays it also can depend on the mods you have equipped, because some of them could change depending on like obviously HP and stamina and weight could all depend on what mods you have equipped as well. But the core of it comes from the character you select.
Yeah. In terms of sprint plus codes for IPS3, I will say I don't want to confirm anything now, but I do. There is some thought of having a way where you could possibly also get a reward for the sprint plushie in IPS3. So if I had to make a recommendation, while not confirming anything, probably don't share your code that you already use publicly, just for that purpose. And if you have, go delete it. Just
Get
in
rid of it
case that they will
now.
be redeemable in IPS3. Again, not confirming it, but it's something that is interesting. Um, so probably do not send those out. How an estimate of how long before alpha opens? A bit tricky to say because it's kind of in flux quite a bit. Um, a lot of progress has happened because of it being the summer, although, I do have to go to school. So that will
We all
definitely
do.
slow progress. We all do have to go to school. Um,
Um,
so that will definitely slow progress. But I really want to get some sort of an alpha, and it might be like a really basic alpha, like purely rounds, nothing else. Hopefully this year, but as I said, I do wanna try to stick by that, like, quote, unquote, "release date" of, this year, next year. Um, although that I will not say that would be necessarily 1.0 as much as I'd like it to be, but that might end up being, like, when it goes into some sort of public beta. But I there will be a period of closed alpha, and I'm not exactly too sure when it would arrive. But as I mentioned in the presentation, there's a lot of round gameplay that's done, and a lot, but there's still a lot that has to be refined, especially with working on maps as well.
that's it. I saw. Oh God, there's so many.
Yeah, this is what I
Um,
said. There's a lot of questions.
there's a couple people. I already saw two questions. There's one question that was when IPS3 is out, will there be more? Will there still be events in IPS2? Um, there's events. We have a couple that automatically start nowadays. Like they will just start at that time of year. Um, we won't make any new events. Um, like we are going to make no new gameplay content for 2 once 3 is fully out. I feel like it will be in its finalized state, at least for gameplay wise, I'd say. But
Mhm.
then events should automatically start. If we I don't actually know if the setup for like Halloween and Christmas is there, or even if we're gonna have a new one by that time. I can't confirm anything, obviously.
Yeah, so
Um,
far the only automatically repeating event is the April Fool's event.
I
So
thought
I guess
Bonanza
yeah,
was automatic.
Yeah.
no. Well, it can be, but it's not set up to be.
Uh,
But the April Fools is,
the only
set
good
up and
event.
ready for that. Yeah, the
And
only
then
good event, sure.
the other thing that I saw, like from multiple people, is will there be more to do in the lobby? This was answered last time, but yes, like 1000%, yeah.
Yeah, so there's going to be obviously like a new lobby, right? But also, there's gonna be all sorts of new shops as well because, we have a lot more actual gameplay content to sell. Uh And lastly, I do have some ideas for neat little mini games and things that are available in the lobby, and they are absolutely not your typical mini games. So I'm kind of
What?
forward to getting to work on something like that. But that's pretty far down the line as I'm focusing on round stuff.
How
Uh,
many maps do you have on or plan on having for the release of IPS3? There's no set number. The kind of thing right now is just as many as we can. The thing with how my motivation and I think a lot of others on the team works is just do it not kind of when we feel like it. And also our motivation shifts a lot from map to map. So you may see teasers for like one map for like 3 weeks in a row, and then suddenly it's a different map. That's because we just switched the map we're working on. Um, and so that's why most of them are average around mid stage of development, because like we haven't been able to see one through to the like full finish line, but some are getting there. It's gonna be a few done soon enough, and those will probably be the ones in the alpha. But on launch, like full 1.0 launch when beta's over, my guess would maybe be around like 6 to 8, I'd hope. That's the ideal. That's like very, very ideal. And then past that point, we're just gonna make new maps and they'll be released when they're done. But
So
please don't freak out over that number. That is big estimate. It could be more, it could be less. It's likely going to be less.
yeah, it's very difficult to predict the future.
Yeah, and especially
um,
with maps because it's so much work and set it fluctuates so often because maps in 3 are a lot more content heavy than they were in 2. There's so many mechanics to them and so many things. Uh,
right. Somebody asked about a skill tree. Um, so we are not really interested in like what you'd typically consider a skill tree, although the character specific modifiers that we talked about are in some way similar to a skill tree. They again, they aren't I don't want to say like there will be a skill tree because that like implies a lot of things that will probably not even ever be true, but it's more like the character specific modifiers fill a similar role to that in the sense that you can customize the character's specific ability how you want to play. So it might be things from like minor adjustments to completely changing some aspect about how the character plays to make it play entirely differently. It kind of covers those situations where there's a character where if you were to make like some change to it would completely change how the character works, but it's not enough to warrant a completely separate character. That would be a great example of what would be considered like a significant character modifier. Although that depends on the characters, of which we have not really talked a whole lot about the specific characters, but we might get into that at some point. Let's see here. Somebody
someone
asked about voices for characters. We thought
Oh.
about it, but we kind of ruled out full voice acting. Just we just don't think it will fit super well into
Stylistically, it
the
doesn't fit it out as well, and there's also alternatives that's kind of in the middle ground that we like a lot more.
yeah, there's better options. It's mostly a stylistic thing though. Would it be a class-based system? Not exactly. You might see characters fit into rough categories. Some might bridge a category. Um, but definitely not anything like distinctively like this is this type of class character because we would rather instead of us making that distinction, we'd rather have the community make that distinction. Especially because I'd rather have people, debating about, what type of a character something is, because it's a lot more interesting than like developers possibly naively just saying this character is meant for this. Like we're not trying to impose any sort of restriction in that
Playstyle.
regard.
I saw someone saying, "Will the killer fish from San Diego return?" Yeah, that's my Roxy guarantee. Hey, love fish.
Yeah.
Also, to the people asking about map, like specific map themes, um, what's it? Fuck, I lost my entire train of thought. Basically, if like the one you're saying would like be a map in 3, I'm not gonna outright say it. We'd rather reveal our maps through proper reveals. And on top of that, what's it? On top of that, a lot of themes we've done are we're focused most on getting general themes from 2 to 3, like returning maps, so then occasionally We have a couple like brand new locations that we've been focusing on. And then past the initial update is when we're gonna be going for a lot of new themes. Like I have an entire planning, like not planning doc. I just have like an entire Google Doc full of locations that I really want to make, and occasionally I just sketched them out. So pretty much everything is on the table, I'd say. I wouldn't rule out really anything, but for like the 1.0 release, expect I'd say majority of the maps that are coming to be full reworks of or like remakes of older maps along with just a couple brand new maps. And then from there it's going to be majority all new.
Somebody asked about if IPS3 will retain R15 or the R6 character rigs. We will be sticking with R15, but we have some absolutely ridiculous ideas to optimize NPCs. Uh, there is more to talk about with NPCs, but we're not really going to get into that right now. But yeah, we have some ridiculous optimization techniques to make the NPCs a lot smoother to deal with.
The
Big brain
horrors.
stuff. Real big brain stuff.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. I got one. Will there be a
Yeah.
more in-depth skin system instead of just gold, ruby, and emerald? That is the dream, the hope. They're gonna actually be different. You know, we don't have to create a separate character like the sprint skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big glorb.
That the colored skin variants will not be in IPS3. We plan to include like
Yeah.
an actual skin system. Uh, I can't say exactly any details about skins because it's still super up in the air, but that is a technical feature that we want to achieve. So take that as you will.
To someone asking if the sprint skin carried over, that was answered a little bit earlier. Do you want to give like a little TLDR on what we said? Yes.
Just save your code. You're
Yeah,
gonna want to
don't
redeem
give out
that
your
again.
code. Yeah,
Yeah, you're gonna want to redeem it again.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't want to confirm
uh,
anything right now, but yeah, don't give out your code.
Will the
Keep it.
old map versions of the original IPS1 come back? Uh, no, as in like their layout or like actual builds will like 100% not return, but their themes, um, they're still on the table, as in like there's always possibility that like those map themes could return in like one day, but dunno. Like I said, there's like a jillion themes that I have written down, and I I want to do all of them, but inevitably I can't. So here's
Yeah,
to hoping.
somebody asked regarding the amount of features that we have in the game and how complex they can become, would it overwhelm new players? Um, we do have methods to ease players into this. For example, a lot of what we talked about with like character modifiers, global modifiers, and gear would they wouldn't not exist for newer players, but they would just kind of be invisible until that new player has gotten eased into the game a little bit. That's an idea that we've had. And of course, there's going to be a way more in-depth tutorial that's a lot more interactive, which is a lot more helpful than just reading something.
Yay.
But we plan to ease players into that experience a little bit easier so that there's less things that they have to think about. As well as some features to help teach new players when they're being looked at by a camera, when to hide, things like that.
Yeah. Yar. There was something I saw that I wanted to. Oh yeah, someone asking more unique map events. Yes. There's a lot of potential. No, in the third game. In the third game, for like I said, there's a lot more in the map designs. I don't know how to word any of this. But basically, like for example, stuff we've done so far. I won't say for what maps or where, but there is a map that has 2 map events in it. There's maps that have a lot of conditionals in them, which are basically the formatting for map events, but they aren't the same regard as map events, as in, like, they're smaller scale, where it could just be 1 item's over here as opposed to being in a different location in another game. Basically, maps are gonna be a lot I'm not very randomized, but potential no, to be a lot more randomized.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it could help cameras, sometimes it could help most times it will help thieves, I'll be honest. But, they're gonna be a lot more general and common now. So, one time you could play a map, it could be entirely different from the other, and that's kind of the ideal. On that note, special items, still gonna be a thing, because they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I expect them to be also a lot more common, just because our maps have so much content packed into them now, to where special items by proxy, just there are more of them per map. Um, I think there's one that has like 12 right now. There's a lot, and I love them all dearly.
Yeah.
A fun
One
question.
feature related to the lobby is like more interactive things, like petable cats. I do want to make a lot more stuff like that in the lobby just for fun. Uh, so one really awesome thing about being able, this is a kind of technical thing, but one really awesome thing about being able to make a new game right now is I once again get to basically rewrite everything and come up with a new system to manage the game's functionality. So, as it stands, a lot of the gameplay that can be used in rounds can also be used in things like the lobby. And that doesn't mean like you're going to be able to like run around and use abilities in the lobby, but basically what that means is like if there is like a petable cat in a map, it's basically no effort to just transfer that into the lobby and have it work. So,
Winner.
basically a lot of things like that are a lot easier to do now.
Um, hey Crystal, I got one for you.
Mhm.
Will this game be focused on stealth or action?
Kind of both. Uh, that's a very, very tricky question. Um, basically, we want to balance those 2 aspects as much as we can so that you can play both and perhaps even have it influenced by the character you're playing. Because as it stands in IPS2, the best way to play the game is kind of just running around, which is not bad. It's not bad, but it's kind of deviating from the original concept of stealth, which is a little disappointing to say the least. Um, so for IPS3, we kind of want to balance the action play styles and the stealth play styles and have them both actually be viable. And the most of that you will see will actually not exactly be in the form of core features, but likely in simply how a character is played. We don't need to worry about rarities anymore. So there could be a character that focuses and makes money off of being stealthy. I don't know what that would look like right now, and obviously there'd be probably multiple of those types of characters, but the gist is that characters will be able to fill the role of balancing between those 2 aspects.
Yeah. I
We
I
asked about a beta build. Paid beta is really tricky because it would help us generate revenue off of a lot of work that we're otherwise essentially doing for free. But at the same time, if somebody can't afford the price, it wouldn't be something ridiculously expensive, just to get that out of the way. If people can't afford that price, I really don't want to limit people who are super engaged and want to test the closed beta or closed alpha rather. So I'm not even too sure if it would be like a paid thing or something where it's limited access just based on applying. I will say that both options are definitely being thought of as this moment because making money off of an enormous amount of work that we have basically done for free is definitely some sort of goal. Uh, but obviously we still have IPS2 helping us out in that regard.
I saw a question that I think was actually a joke question, but it's kind of funny because we can legitimately answer it. Will In Plain Sight 3 be called In Plain Sight 3? Probably not.
Yeah,
Um,
it's kinda it's more of a working title, IPS3. We're not gonna, like, literally change the name of the game, but an idea that we currently have right now is potentially and not that
oh,
potentially, uh, renaming the IPS3 at launch to be, like, just In Plain Sight and have the former 2 games be named, like, Classic or something.
so
Again, just an
retro.
idea that we're floating, but we kind of see it like
The
it
definitive
is a
game.
3rd game entry, but it's, like, almost a reinvention of the series of sorts. Again, it's kinda still up in the air, so I wouldn't really take that
Mhm.
for granted, but it's an
Yeah,
idea that we've had.
the
It
reason
is
we've been using IPS3 mostly is just because it's the general term. It's the 3rd game, and it's the most easily understandable from a distance. Like, if you see something that says this is for IPS3, you're gonna understand it's not for the game you're currently playing, you know?
Right. It's the most effective working title for communication, but come full launch, it might change. Well, and we'll be
actual
announcing that at some point.
actual gameplay differences in a sequel? No way.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Crazy idea.
I know.
I saw one that was, like, nearby, and I can't find. Oh, can we ban mobile players from IPS3? God, I wish.
The games are very annoying to design when you have both PC, console, and mobile in mind
We've had
because,
this
like, there's some gameplay that would be so smooth if people just had a mouse, but they don't.
had to revise so many UI concepts so many times because it doesn't work with mobile.
Yeah, US is a big one.
I want them to explode.
We're trying to figure out, some of the best ways to handle all the platforms, and
Yeah.
the control scheme that we're working with in the dev builds, I feel like is fairly solid thus far. I will say one interesting thing about the controls in terms of, like, what's already done. There has been a pivot from a lot of things that you click on to more things that are proximity based that you press a key with. So items are still something you click on just because that's like a pivotal element of the gameplay. But for example, things like depositing or reviving somebody, those are proximity based when you press a key
Okay.
to make things a lot more clear. Just because the tapping doesn't really work so nicely for controller players. Um, but also I'm just curious to see how it will play out.
Mhm. Um, what's it? There was oh yeah, someone asked if cooking would return in complex. Cooking itself as a feature will likely return just because it's pretty cool, but I am just gonna kinda guarantee now it won't be on complex. It never really fit the map. It was kinda shoehorned. But
Yeah.
when it does return, if it would be on a different map and would definitely be a lot more intuitive. Because cooking was really good, but the problem is since Complex was so large and so spread out, it just wasn't viable. When it does return, it probably will be a lot more viable and also a lot more ingrained into the actual map's design. So, yay.
Ooh. Somebody asked
Wait,
about thieves and whatnot transferring over. Um, that will not transfer over because simply just because it's a different game.
yeah,
So
they're
I
gonna
mean,
be if there
yeah,
are any thieves that are from In Plain Sight 2, they're gonna work probably completely differently than how they work in 2. It's
Yeah,
completely revamped. It's
yeah. There's
like
pretty much,
all new
yeah.
no
all new stuff.
guarantee.
Like Ironclad. He ain't just gonna press E, make you a sword.
Yeah,
Like
$10 to my name.
yeah. Like,
yeah.
and it's gonna be a lot more in depth I
It'd be a lot more intuitive and actually fun, pretty much.
guess. Yeah.
Basically,
Uh,
they won't be one note. They're gonna be pretty dynamic on how they work with accounting for one general playstyle, but they're not locked into that playstyle as in the like they can do more if you know how to use them.
Yeah.
right. Somebody
Are
asked incorporating emotes.
Oh,
Perhaps.
oh,
We have stuff written up on emotes, but it's one of those things that it's like not a huge priority right now that we do want to look into later. But I would say it is definitely something on our radar.
yeah,
someone
one.
is asking if All Cow, All Duck, and Crystal Flame will stay on IPS3. Uh, Probably not. I know Crystal won't be in 3, but I'm unsure on the stance of the others, but I'm pretty sure it's a no. But
Probably not.
I know we have slight references to Duck and Cow and a couple, like 1 or 2 maps, just because it feels weird to just entirely remove them from the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody asked better rewards for leaderboard players. So there won't be leaderboards for a while in IPS3, and we're not even like 100% sure there will be leaderboards. However, it's more likely that there will be leaderboards than not. But
Uh,
I don't really want it to take the same form as how they are in IPS2. I'd rather have them be rather significantly different, which would include rewards.
Yeah,
So in the case that everything I just said is indeed true, uh, there would ideally be better rewards, yes.
I saw a couple questions I could answer, possibly. Um, serious question, are there any more plans on any more plushies? Um, I think the general idea is that, yeah, we'd like to. That's cool. I personally would rather wait for there to be a bit more time between Sprint and now because it hasn't been that much time, and I don't even know.
As
I'm
a
not
simple
the one who
answer, more
gets this.
plushies would be cool,
Yeah,
basically.
pretty much. Would
Yeah,
be cool, but not confirmed or anything.
right, and that's a lot. More of that is due to makeshift. Like, we would love to do more stuff, but, like,
Yeah.
it's kind of at makeshift's discretion.
Mm.
We definitely do not have the resources to launch actual
Our
plushies.
own, yeah.
Somebody
There's
asked
a
tungsten cubes in IPS3. I will say yes, of course, there's gonna be a tungsten cube.
It's like a cube pillow.
so heavy. Will there be
That's
more
not.
secret spots such as the little emoji board by missions in the lobby? I love making secrets. There will be so many. I love doing silly little things.
There's even some secrets in IPS2 that people have not found. It's really fun to make secrets.
It's so silly.
Yeah.
Will the Godfather return in IPS3? Yeah, he's a cool fella.
That's to
I mean, not
clarify, not
I
necessarily as a playable character, although I'm
I
not saying he won't be a playable character. It's just the character in general.
I
Yeah.
forgot that he was playable because I
Yeah.
actually straight up do not have him. I meant
As a
literally
character, yes.
the guy. Yes,
Yeah.
the guy will
Um.
return. I'm unsure about gameplay.
Right.
Yeah. We don't know if certain thieves are returning or not yet.
We know a couple,
So
but we won't be telling,
Yeah.
probably.
yeah, not
We don't
yet.
want to get huge detail into characters.
Yeah. I see.
Besides Ben.
I see an interesting question actually. In the lobby, would there be a table showing the map layouts for new players? That one,
It,
that's a
That'd
cool
be quite
idea,
cool
to
to
be honest.
do.
Yeah.
I'd be down to
We
do
actually don't have
that.
anything like that.
It's like the Splatoon lobbies. They got like sketches of every map's not every maps, but like
Oh,
2 maps layouts in them. It would be
yeah.
cool to do stuff like that. In
Yeah.
Complex, actually, there is a sketch of the entire jewelry store's bottom floor, including all of the secret valuable locations marked on it.
Mhm.
And I'd like to do more stuff like that because I think that's really fun to do.
Mhm.
How many maps
Somebody
are
Recon
we playing
is
asked
on it?
Are
Oh
lasers
boy.
hit scan still? The answer is yes. Although, so the thing with hit scan is it gives priority to the camera players because otherwise the experience when playing camera would be absolutely atrocious. It would feel so bad you'd leave immediately. Um, with that said, IPS3 already has some significant networking improvements to the point where we literally don't use Roblox characters anymore. Like it still looks basically exactly the same and controls exactly the same, but underneath the hood, they're not Roblox characters anymore. And they are replicated at 60 hertz instead of, I believe the physics replication is 20 hertz that Roblox has by default. So instead of 20 times a second, we're dealing with 60 times a second. So it's a lot more up to date. Obviously, with that said, it will not probably make a huge visual difference. But one of the big things coming into this project that we really wanted to do was improving the networking conditions of characters so that
Yeah.
that should hopefully minimize the scenarios where a laser seemingly misses you but hits you. It looks like it missed you, but it did in fact hit you, but just on the camera screen and maybe like half a second ago because they're lagging. That's just the nature of
Yeah.
multiplayer games. There's not really a lot we can do for that.
Yeah.
The
However,
default.
it should help.
Yeah. It's kind of wild. The default character replication has a. It's really delayed, and by I guess switching to this new one, there's gonna be a lot less one. Like it's a lot faster. It'll be a lot
Oh,
more
It's
I
pretty
guess
nice.
synced closer
I,
to what
s-
you actually expect it to be.
I saw a question I am excited to answer. Would IPS3 lore be subtle or like evident? Um, it's going to be ingrained a lot into the map design, along with more into the characters themselves. Like their designs replicate not only their gameplay but who they are. Along with that, there's a lot of world building we have done. Like for example, I have drawn an entire rough sketch of the city's overhead layout, along with pinpointing almost the exact location of numerous maps. And stuff like that is very fun. I'm excited to keep doing stuff like that. And expect this like story and world building of the game to be a lot more, I'm not gonna say in your face, but it's just gonna be evident in the game. It's gonna exist. It won't be like intrusive, but it will be there.
Yeah.
Can you confirm
Um,
that new characters are gonna be added? Yeah.
there
Yeah.
will be new characters. Yeah. Mhm.
I wanna prioritize new characters over returning ones, because I feel like that's kind of the thing to do when making a new game.
Yeah. Oh, I got a good one. Roxy, do you
Mhm.
uh will the school map come back?
I I hate that godforsaken map so much. Anytime I'm in like a VC and someone asks about the school map, I just go on like a 20-minute rant about how much I hate school from
That all people are
IPS2.
typing.
I want that map dead and buried, and I'm happy it exploded.
Yeah, everyone wants school to come back, but no one wants to work on it.
God, I'm never making that map. Like if it comes back, it's not being made by me, and I will not have a hand in helping it.
Maybe I'll
I
do
hate it so
it.
much.
Dude, Vaughn, my brother was asking, like, when's school coming back? I'm like, don't
God,
know.
never. I mean,
Maybe I'll do it,
there,
because like,
if
I do kind of
if I
miss it.
have like a stroke of motivation one day and like an epiphany at this perfect school map, maybe. But the answer is most likely no, because I hate that location and I never want it back.
Maybe we'll put in the original back in like IPS2 as like a private server exclusive thing.
As
I
a
don't
prank. It's a practical
know.
joke.
Yeah.
The only
I
map
mean,
available on April
technically the
Fools.
map is still in the game. It's
It
just like
is.
off rotation.
Sometimes I just go into like a server with like like people in the Discord for fun and just play school and then just leave. Sentenced to school.
Somebody
Yeah.
asked, where there'd be mini games in the round, similar like quick reaction event to steal an item. As it stands, no. You steal way too many items for uh, that to be something that we could consider. Although, if I interpret the question in a different way, like having mini games in the round, like things that you do, maybe. I mean,
Like the cooking
like
game.
for example, cooking is a good example. We do want to have more stuff like that in the game, just because it's like fun map specific stuff. One thing that we've wanted for a really long time is maps to be less about uh, purely just what items are on it, and also be like, oh, what fun map gameplay do I want to experience?
It's
Um,
true.
like I
It's
was just there's a lot of work into making the map format, which if you don't know is like the technology that powers map creation. There's been a lot of thought into that to make it super robust, uh, so that you can have a lot of creativity when working on a map, but also just add like funny things. There's a, for example, just yesterday I was stress testing the new camera location system, and so
there.
in my dev build, there's like a million camera locations flying every which way and spinning, and it still works.
It's
So
spinning.
there's kind of a lot of things that can work well with the new systems. And another thing I want to do at some point is we do have our own like mapping tools in development in the form of a plugin for Roblox Studio that we eventually want to make public in some fashion, so that people also map documentation as well. We want to open source the technology and uh, actual documentation for how to make a good map and what you can do for that.
Yeah.
That's a
It's not
big thing that we want to do.
We'll have, I guess, better organized community map submissions.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I
having
saw.
community maps closer to being integrated into the game would be really cool. I can't like say it would be something that we're necessarily going to shoot for, but something, if you're familiar with Flood Escape 2, how they do maps, something like that is kind of cool. I haven't considered that in practice, but the idea of community members being able to basically completely independently develop a map and then test it somehow in some version of the game is a pretty novel idea, and would not only just make it so that people could play their own maps for fun, but also extend the life of the game and make it easier to bridge the gap between community map and
Just
getting it
map.
into the game. Because that's a difficult process. Because as it stands, if somebody was to get a map into the game and they require so much effort and so much feedback and so much thought, and especially with IPS3 now, uh, it there ends up being a period after the map submission where there is a significant amount of work that we would still have to do on that map to get it actually into the game. And that might be technical work, that might be rebalancing, all sorts of things really, especially stuff that comes up in testing.
Yeah. I saw
And
something I could
yeah, go for it.
answer. Actually, a little while back before I answer, when you just mentioned the QTE stuff, if there were to be something like that, that would be a completely independent map mechanic. Like, there could be an example of that existing in one map alone, like a lock picking type thing. But that would be independent of core gameplay. That would be something that is decided when actually making the map. So I wouldn't say it's off the table, but it's more so that it won't be ingrained in the core gameplay design, you know? Um, and then as for the actual question, um, I saw someone kind of jokingly say it, but once again, serious answer. Someone who said, "Will IPS3 have an ice level?" I would love to make like a snowy environment. That was so much fun to make like the Christmas lobby, and I would really like to do something like that again. So I don't be surprised if like a full-blown winter map comes out sometime.
I love making winter maps.
They're so
fun
much
to make.
fun.
I know.
They're such a good
Yeah.
vibe.
Arctic
There's
Lab coming to an IPS3 near you.
as someone said, will there be collabs? Uh perchance. Don't really know. That's more it's
It's a
I
very
think
difficult question
Yeah.
to answer.
yeah.
My
I mean, it's
maybe.
one thing because like this type of game doesn't do the best with collabs, because it's not really the most easily like if there were to be a collab, what we would likely do is like cosmetics and maybe a map. But the problem is, maps take a lot of time and effort. So if we were to do collabs, like let's say very big hypothetical, we were fully on board to do one. They would be very few and small between, but if we were to do them, they'd probably have a lot of thought and care put into them.
Yeah, there would be few, but they would be probably more entertaining.
Yeah, I'd be excited to do one pretty much.
Right.
Mm.
Somebody asked
Be good
about
collab.
thoughts on blind spots and how common they will be in IPS3 and if they're going to be balanced because they seem sort of unfair. So, if you weren't here earlier, um, in addition to the map format, we have a way to designate regions and maps now for lore purposes and naming rooms and whatnot for things like callouts. But additionally, we can also indicate these regions as being a blind spot, which would then start a timer. And if the thief hasn't left the blind spot in that time, they're going to start taking damage. Uh, so that is like the main mechanism to basically get people from sitting in there the entire game. However, additionally, this also brings up a question of map design, like how big will blind spots be? Where will they be? And if Roxy, if you want to answer that question.
I'd be down. In terms of that, they're gonna be very like intentional blind spots will be very few and small, like few and small in between. Like there will not be many. And honestly, that's kind of an if at all thing because don't know why this hasn't been done, but there's the joyous wonders of having a closed door. As in there's a bathroom on this map, but it's not open and you can't go in it. You know?
Mm.
There's gonna be more stuff like that. Just so the map makes logical sense, but at the same time, it's designed around gameplay. There's been a lot of that done, but there are times where blind spots are nice in maps, but I will say intentional blind spots are a lot lesser, and if they would return, they'd be a lot smaller. Like, honestly, at times, I know I hate this map, but think of like the school janitor's closet. Like that thing was tiny, but like imagine that, but an actual like small room. Like stuff like tiny closets or single bathrooms. Those would probably be blind spots, but those would be put in very specific places. Like imagine the mansion upper bathroom. That is a good example of a blind spot. That is far away and so far away from, like, intruding on the like, it's like, I don't know how to word that well, but it's not in the way of, like, really good routes, so it's not viable to just hide. Like, you can't just deposit then sit at one for 20 minutes till the camera leaves. There won't
Right.
be any of that.
One thing with blind spots is we're not even like 100% sure like how solidified they will be in IPS3. It's still kind of up in the air and really down to testing. But I guess you could think of blind spots in the current design scape as this. If we want to balance play styles between a more stealth-based player style where you're hiding in a crowd and possibly rewarded in some way for doing such things, and a more active play style, the equivalent of hiding in a crowd for the stealth player is or for the active player is being inside of a blind spot, right? It's kind of that parallel between you can either hide in a crowd because you like playing stealth, or you could temporarily hide in a blind spot, right? If you're doing a more active play style. Again, we don't really know how that will play out, and it's really down to testing, but that could be a helpful comparison that you could make in regards to how blind spots will work and how they're going to be balanced. Something like that, basically.
Something
Will
a
money be used for
oh,
characters or
oh,
cosmetics and other stuff? We do want to introduce basically we want to modify how progression is done entirely, which will mean that the main currency that you earn from uh basically the money that you make during rounds will not be purchasable. We don't want to reveal the plans exactly just yet for how that's going to play out and where monetization comes into the play, but to get some things off, money will not be buyable um with Robux, that is. And there won't be like the main way to get characters won't be like the loot box method that there is right now, because we don't have rarities and we don't think it's worth it to do that anymore.
okay. Um, I saw a couple. One of I saw was, will there be new special rounds or will it rework existing ones? I think a mix of both. There's gonna be some returning, and then it's kind of like once we get all our returning stuff from 2 that we want to return, it's gonna be pretty much all new, you know? I've personally written down a couple concepts for special missions, and there's potential for more stuff. And overall, it's pretty exciting. I'm excited to see how this game goes because nothing's really fully solidified.
Yeah, special
Um,
missions are quite up in the air.
yeah. I saw a couple more. Would there be fictional or unrealistic reps in IPS3? Um, I saw the examples you gave. It's more so I personally would like to ground maps more in reality just because if we want to have a normal world or if we want to have a grounded universe, there's times where I'd want to have it set a little more like realistically. That's just how my map design works. It's my favorite type of level design and also building. But at the same time, out of those examples, I would say time travel is not off the table. As in I have a few
I don't
maps that I would
like
like.
it. You may like it.
I love it! I want to do it. I think it would be fun. At least for map design wise, I think it'd be very fun. I have so many, like, ideas.
Time travel
Like,
to the
for
1800s.
I would say things that are more off the table, at least from my personal thoughts, would be stuff like literal space. I don't know, if that's possible. Stuff like
Skeld map.
underwater, though, that's an unrealistic that is a lot more possible, I would say. Just imagine places they could possibly go and through time. I like that one a lot more. Um, eh, obviously, that one's up in the air.
All the
Uh
alternate timelines we could go.
God, no, that's off limit. We are not doing alternate universe stuff. I hate that. Um, there is one more. Will IPS3 maps have a static 4 deposit points like IPS2, or is it dependent on the map? Um, I think that's fully dependent on the map. A standard 4 is very nice. Just it looks clean and works for most maps, like smaller to mid-sized maps. But with the introduction of larger maps, along with just wanting to have more, I'd say like randomized or like intuitive gameplay, there is full possibility of like 4 or more deposits. Or if we're feeling evil, there's possibility of less. But what's it? We also have like ideas of unlockable deposits, like our like exit only areas. Like you could only be able to go through during the escape sequence or something. Uh, there's a lot of exciting prospects for that stuff, but it is fully dependent on the map.
Another thing to mention is dynamic deposits.
Yeah, that's oh yeah, ones that can just activate and turn off for funsies.
Or move. Fun stuff like that.
All right. Will we be getting new Fire music?
Game will be silent.
Yeah. It'll be crickets.
Cricket music.
Yeah.
All of our
One of,
soundtracks will be performed by crickets.
I think one of the things that we wanted to do, I think, was a custom soundtrack. We don't know if that'll happen though.
It'd be really
But
cool.
yeah. If not, but yeah, there'll probably be new music. Maybe some returning tracks. We don't know yet.
A lot of stuff can be summed up to be, I don't know, but it would be kind of awesome.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, that's what
It
I'm gonna
might
answer with.
depend on what stage of the development of the game's in.
Yeah.
I'd hope.
We got a couple people that we might reach out to if we ever do, make a custom soundtrack or anything of the sort.
Yarn.
I just realized a lot of the answers are perfectly encapsulated with the possibly sticker.
So true. Oh god, I saw a good question, but I like scrolled past it now. It's like,
Somebody asked, "Are thieves going?" And I'm also answer in regards to cameras. Are thieves and cameras going to be possible with multiple abilities? Um, Basically, any restriction on amount of active abilities will be gone to the point where it's absolutely possible for a thief to have no active ability. Maybe it plays entirely passively, um, and just dynamic to how you move around or something. Maybe there's just one, like in IPS2. Maybe there's two. Maybe there's three. Right? All these are definite possibilities
so many
for
buttons.
amount of active abilities. Yeah. Although once getting up to above 3 is pretty tricky because it's hard to represent that on a controller.
Oh,
So,
true.
probably not more than 3, but definitely the amount of abilities that a character can have is, like, super, um, configurable.
I personally have been shooting for 2 per character, but that's absolutely not a standard. Like Crystal said, there could be more, there can be less, but at the current moment, I've been shooting for around 2 actives per character.
Mhm.
Um, I saw a couple I could answer. Um, I saw like, will funny map events and secrets return in IPS3? Absolutely. Um, I loved doing stuff like ants. I thought that was something really fun that we did. I'd like to do more stuff like that. Um, there's funny secrets are always a good thing. I like doing stuff like that. Because, like, the thing is, sometimes we do references to other games or media and special items. Obviously, we don't want to say anything by name or, like, exact reference, but it's fun to do, like, small tie-in not tie-ins, it's fun to do small references to media we like or something. Um, and then the other thing I saw is just, are there gonna be returning maps? Yeah. Um, when I say returning maps, there's going to be, like, literally 1 or 2 that use the foundation of their IPS2 map, as in they're just changed from their IPS2 version to be a, like, different IPS3 version, like what's happening with Farm, because that one's been publicly shown. But other than that, any returning map will literally be built from the ground up, like Complex. And that's kind of the only 2 we've actually revealed. Um, Crystal, I have one that I don't know if we should answer, but I'm gonna say this one out in the air if you want to.
What is it?
Uh, will there be 12 players max per server?
Oh, we
Didn't
have
we
talked
talk
about
about
this
that?
before.
We have?
Yeah.
Um,
Hard.
the current goal is, being able to support 15-player servers. Which would mean, like,
Yeah.
3 cameras probably.
12 feet,
Uh,
3 cams.
Basically targeting a player count, technically, there is a limit, although there is not a limit to what it can be during rounds. There's no specific restrictions on team size. Um, However, there are some technical limits on player count imposed by the networking improvements. Networking is performed at a lot faster of a rate, so it can be kind of difficult to support large amounts of players. Um, so currently, the networking restrictions are designed around 15 players, but that number can vary quite a bit, especially during rounds and team size and whatnot. But that is all stuff that's still kind of up in the air. But the general sense is like still quite a similar 10 thieves, 2 cameras, or um,
12
3 cameras
thieves.
possibly.
Yeah.
Speaking of 3 cams, I should mention maps are being changed by proxy, as in, on average, maps are going to be bigger and more content loaded. Just similar vibe to complex, but the difference between complex and normal maps is that, um, as in, imagine complex with normal scaling, as in, it won't be a nightmare to walk around. Um, it will be normal size. Like, imagine, probably around the room size of restaurant, but around map sizes near, like, just larger on average. I'm not saying maps will be large like Comtech, so that was a bad example. But, no, I said change by proxy. That one is really similar though. But, overall, maps will be larger to account for 3 cam, but also just to account for more content heavy, like, the content loaded maps, and also just gives us more room to design maps fun if there's just more content overall.
Somebody
So
asked if it says gullible on the ceiling. It does indeed say gullible on
it
the
does
ceiling,
say
and that is a
gullible on the
fact.
ceiling.
It does say gullible on
Yeah.
the ceiling.
Will the fan art building return? Yeah.
Will there be a
Perhaps maybe
casino?
a better way to show it off as well.
Yeah. I know you said proxy, I just don't like you. Oh.
Alright, I got one. How large of an initial cast is IPS3 going to have compared to IPS2? Nowhere near as large as IPS2 currently has.
So much smaller.
Yeah. The
But the
IPS2 is that was one of the reasons that we made are making IPS3 is because there's so many, I guess, characters that they're kind of just boring.
yeah,
And no one really plays them either. Like we could spend the time to rework them all into something that's
yeah.
enjoyable to play or like unique rather than just
Or
+5 jump power and or
yeah,
+2
but the
walk
issue
speed.
the
We got
issue
like
with
20 of
that
those.
Yeah, then the issue with that is that that means reworking like over 60 characters to be actually fun. And like
Yeah.
the funny thing is we only realized how bad the cast actually got when we had to like go through and start thinking of characters to remove. And like I didn't realize how many we had, but it's so many. We have like over 80 characters and I can't name half of them. They're just it's so one note. Which at the time wasn't bad, but at this game's current gameplay, it's not the thing we want to be promoting, you know?
Yeah.
So
It's
while there's gonna be lesser thieves, they're gonna be more content heavy to a point of where it doesn't really feel like there's a difference.
yeah, they're gonna be unique enough. You can if you spend enough time playing the game, you could probably name them all.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
like, I don't know how many we're probably gonna have on
Oh,
release. Maybe I think a good count for alpha
I'd
would be
hope.
at least I think a bare minimum of 10.
I would really hope. I mean, if they are easier to create,
Uh,
then yes, I would
yeah,
hopefully
it should
expect
be
around that.
easier. I think
I mean,
something like 20 would be
internally they'd be
nice.
easier, but there's also the topic of more in-depth character designs, which makes it a lot
Yeah,
more complicated. But ideally, I'd hope for around that.
you're gonna be
Um,
doing a lot more with the characters to make up for it. So
yeah, pretty much.
a lot
And on
more
top of
capable.
that, they're gonna have actual character to them, as in like writing and like things to make them feel like actual people.
Yeah.
Unlike two.
How will we
Yeah,
get thieves?
little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
this kind of goes into a question I had too.
yeah. Oh, you
Um,
want to answer it then?
sure. Kind of going off of what has already been said, characters will not be acquired with the loot box system. They're going to be direct purchases, quite likely, uh, just because everything's kind of on the same level, and it's more about what you specifically are interested in playing rather than what you are randomly gotten. Um, so in that sense, getting characters we want to be less frustrating. Um, so you can base it more around what you actually want to be playing. And also another really quick question. There will not be a separate Discord for IPS3. This is just the in plain sight Discord in general.
Yark. That's it. Um, uh, does gatekeeping exist in the IP? Absolutely. Um, Novum asked, if defaults will be viable after you unlock everything.
There will only be one default character, but it will just have skins. Um, basically, it's not going to be like if it is in the same aspect to IPS2, instead of being multiple, it would just be one default character that would um,
Just have multiple skins
have
that are all the
multiple skins.
variants of the other defaults.
Right.
Also, on that note, I think the default character we'd want them to have a high skill ceiling to a point of where they could be played reasonably late into unlocking characters, but they'd be the most generalist of generalist playstyles, you know? They'd have a very simple, like, opening gameplay, but ideally would be in depth enough to where you could reasonably play them.
Right. It should be a reasonable pick, but like for anybody, even people who are experienced with playing the game, but it should also be at the same time on the more simple side, such as to not draw people away from the game. Because they still
Uh,
do have to learn how to play. And then once they kind of know how the game works, then maybe they want to experiment with a new character.
yep. Someone asked if you will get rewards, depending on what you did in like IPS2, like playing. If like if you got a lot in 2, would you get something in 3? I can't be objective with this because we haven't decided anything, but I was originally on the side of there probably shouldn't be anything just in general, but I've seen it so much to a point of where I feel like it'd probably be a good idea to give, at the very least, something, even if it's small. But um, obviously, we haven't decided on what would be given or if anything at all. So I wouldn't say like expect something, but I don't want to rule it out because I'm starting to agree that it should be something that happens.
Will more features be added to help cameras instead of all the thieves who had things mostly help them like supply runs, special rounds? There will be a lot more for cameras to do. So keep in mind that there are a lot more features for both thieves and cameras to diversify gameplay. But we do want to give cameras a lot more attention because there's such a unique role in the game that is not really expanded upon as much as we kind of want it to be. So working more on that is definitely something we want to do.
Yeah,
It
there have been some wild ideas thrown around to make that happen. Oh, no, that we haven't. We have some ideas that are like, confirmed. We're putting in, or at least we're gonna try out. But there's some, I guess, more unexpected things that may or may not be happening. We don't know yet.
Yeah, definitely gonna have to play out and test that.
Yeah.
Also, some people talking about NPCs. We do want to do more interesting things with NPCs because as it stands, they're there, but they're kind of boring and don't really encourage a lot of stealth gameplay when I think they could. So we'll probably do something with NPCs, or at least test various things with NPCs to see how it works.
super winner.
Let's see. I had a question. Where
Scrolling
did
through
it go?
I saw a couple I could answer really fast if you guys
Yeah,
want to
do
look for
it. Do it.
questions.
There you go.
No. Can we have a horse in IPS3? Absolutely. I'll get on it right away. Um,
Transform into a horse.
will there be IPS1 references in IPS3? That is something we've actually just been doing in our map design for fun. Like, there's been times where we make something we think, oh, it'd be cool to reference the first game here. And same goes for the second game. We just have some times where we want to reference a lot of the older content. And so we do.
Yeah. It might not be like canonical references, but it is always fun to reference back to
Yeah,
other
good
games from the
idea.
series.
What are some ways you think you could encourage players to play more thieves beside their sole main? We haven't really thought about that.
I mean, we do
There's
want to
been some
expand upon
thoughts.
missions.
Yeah, there might be, I guess missions that require you to play a specific thief X amount of times or something.
Mhm.
Hopefully it'll be more interesting than that.
Yeah.
But but one of the
Hopefully.
things that we want to influence people to playing is more interesting missions, which is kind of a whole separate thing that we haven't really talked about. But the missions
Yeah.
they have potential to be quite
Can
interesting, but
we get a potential counter?
they
I get a potential
potential.
in the chat?
But they aren't as interesting as we hoped they would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Yar. Sorry, I read the word pirate.
Well, funny or troll characters return. Well,
You got bad
then
news.
it
Bad news.
might be harder to make troll
Objective
characters.
troll character, yeah. But
Yeah.
there will be
Like
silly little fellas.
maybe there will be like one kind of like goofy troll ability, but like the other ones are gonna be like you know, they're like one active out of like three that's just kind of like complete just funniness, silly.
Mhm.
But then the other two are like, they're actually, you can do things with them. But I don't know about like dedicated funnier troll characters, except for
Yeah, we
maybe
do want to play
Ben.
more into team play. So
Yeah.
What's it? I saw a question that I don't know how to answer, but I want to ask, like, read it out anyways, if you're cool with that.
mhm.
Uh, do you plan to let IPS3 participate in Roblox events when it's fully released? My personal answer is like, God, I wish. I want to make things for events. That sounds fun.
It would be cool to make a good event.
Yeah,
It would be very tricky, and
especially
obviously
within time
it's not really up
frames.
to us.
Yeah, but if we did get invited to one of those, I would be down to do something for that. But I
Yeah,
think
my
that's
only worry
something you
is
have to
time
more.
constraints.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's something you more have to apply for. But all in all, I'd rather do something because, like, that just sounds like a very fun experience, especially if we can make something high quality, or at least something we're happy with, because then we get people playing our game, and also we have a cool event going on. It just seems fun.
The
So
gist is that it's cool, but we have no idea.
yeah. I don't even know the process to getting into that. Like, don't we have to apply to do that? Or do they ask us, or is it a mix of both?
It's probably a mix, but I'm not 100% sure. Also,
Yeah.
to reiterate from further, people were talking about it. It does. I am 100% serious when I say it does indeed say gullible on the ceiling. Like that
Oh
is
yeah.
not a joke. That's not even like that is an IPS3, but it is an IPS2 as well. It
Yeah,
does say
it
gullible
does.
on the
It
ceiling.
literally says
And
gullible.
it said gullible on the ceiling for like over a year, and nobody knows that.
Or where.
Yeah, but it does indeed say gullible on the
Go
ceiling.
on. Search for it.
Someone keeps
Maybe it says
asking if
global
the
on the ceiling.
statistics tab's gonna return. I am a big fan of the statistics tab.
I
I
love
like.
Oh no, absolutely.
numbers.
Statistics will be returning it.
Yeah,
I
hopefully
will
there's
say
also
though, they will not save in alpha periods though, or beta
Yeah.
periods.
there'll
And
probably
another
even
thing
be
I want to
more.
mention I don't know about during beta, but definitely during alpha, your stuff will not save. It will be, like, randomly reset, which is why it's supposed to be, like, a closed alpha. It is not meant for, like it is not, like, an early release of the game. It is actually for testing.
I saw a cool question.
Mhm.
Is IPS2 set in the same timeline or universe as IPS3? Yes, it is a direct sequel. Th- Um, there is, I will say there is a small time skip. And we've played into that time skip a lot for the story of the game. It's been very, very fun to do. Um, I don't know if we should reveal the amount of years. I seriously don't know if that's a good idea to do right now, but there is a specific time, like a number of times skipped since 2 and 3, and they
Yeah,
are in the same universe.
and it's
And
not a ridiculously long time.
yeah, no, it's not like crazy. It's not like 50 years in the future.
Ooh, will we add a pirate in IPS3?
Yar. It'd be
No, we have
cool.
to.
I
We
It would
like
be
have
cool.
to.
pirates.
We have to.
Yeah, expect that tomorrow is the big pirate update where we add a bunch of pirates and replace all the old characters with more pirates.
Arr,
True.
shiver me
Yar.
timbers.
A pirate event would be cool.
It would be cool.
That would be
I want to
dope.
do that.
Somebody's
That'd be
asking about Tony, in terms of confirming characters. I really like Tony.
I'm
Uh,
also a big Tony fan.
Tony was quite fun to work on, and I definitely like to see it continue. I do want to look into ways. Every character that we generally say like we kind of want it to return, that doesn't mean it's going to be like one to one or necessarily similar. It's like it's something that we're interested in bringing back in some fashion, either the character or the gameplay standpoint. And in Tony's case, I do particularly like the character and gameplay. So
Mhm.
it would be very cool to there's definitely some sort of confirmation there.
I agree.
Will there be more functionality in private servers, such as an admin panel for private server owners? That is definitely something we would like to do.
Your job, not mine.
Yeah, 'cause I kind of wanted to do it for In Plain Sight 2, so that
It
might be
still might
coming.
yet happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still,
IPS2 isn't done with its updates yet.
yeah, it's not done, guys, but it'll probably happen. I definitely want to do it for In Plain Sight 3, though. That's
Yeah.
confirmed.
Yeah.
I'm just
Probably
gonna
not
confirm that.
be a thing that would happen pretty soon though. It's
Yeah.
definitely a later priority.
Mhm. Um, I saw a couple things.
Oh, also for people who somebody asked about a reward for playing the second game, maybe. I think it would be well, I'm not 100% sure on that because I do want to reward people who have played the series for long, perhaps in some way. Although I'm not 100% sure if I want to just say, "Oh, we'll reward IPS2 players," because that's kind of a difficult thing. Because IPS2 won't close when IPS3, like, full launches. It's still playable, so
Mhm.
I'm not entirely sure what the distinction would be there.
The maybe-o-meter is going off the charts.
Yeah, lots of maybes. The possibly sticker is very applicable.
Yeah.
Uh,
Contributor. Oh yeah, go on.
sorry. Um, I was just gonna say because I saw a couple of questions about characters, and I was gonna say, there's a big distinction on returning characters because some characters, it's this very small batch, will return gameplay wise. Like they will be playable and actively like you can use them to play the game, like in maps. And then some characters, this should be probably a bit of a wider bunch compared to game like characters returning in gameplay. But a select handful of characters may just return as people, like dialogue or just in the lobby hanging out, or they might just play an important role in other regards in this game. I obviously can't say who or when or which, but um, I would say that some characters will return gameplay wise, but that's a very small few. And then a bit larger few will return just hanging out or just in different roles. Uh,
Contributors and artists of IPS2 will have their respective roles in IPS3. Crystal, can you answer that one?
It's a bit of a tricky question to answer because
Eh,
so in the community, I'd like to keep the role in the community. However, in the game, technically not. I mean, if you're talking about content that has transferred over in some fashion, maybe. But if you're talking about like a character that was like in IPS2 but not in IPS3, probably not. Although I'd still like to honor that in the in the community though. But
yeah.
in the game, unlikely unless it's something that like actually transferred over in some fashion.
yeah. Will there be map hazards in specific maps? Yeah. I love killing people and taking all of their money.
About half their money.
No, we don't do that here.
Okay.
But yeah, map hazards are really fun. Items that are also hazards are really fun. I want to find as many ways to do that as possible because I like doing funny stuff like that. And the good thing about having a 100 HP system is that I can do things that do like 5 damage to you, and it like barely means anything. Like it won't
Yeah.
like detrimentally ruin your game. That's another good thing with under
Another
HP.
good reason for the higher health numbers as well.
Yeah, like I can have like a mousetrap item that'll damage you like 2 HP instead of it like ruining your game if you pick it up.
Yeah.
Ooh, here's a good one. Is IPS3 gameplay slower paced than IPS2, like how in IPS2 cameras can spam locations and thieves can run and jump around the map while surviving? Ah, okay. That was a bit long. There's probably going to be ways to go in both directions, slower paced and faster paced. That's kind of what we want to do. It basically up to you how you want to play. But we're gonna, I guess, lean into more encounters between cameras and thieves because at times it can be kind of difficult to find thieves. Like there, you can just not see a thief for like 2 minutes at a time. You know, like
It sucks.
you just go the entire round without seeing anybody sometimes. Like I've had that happen. It just sucks. So there's gonna be ways to find thieves. You know, rather than just outright. You know, like a Dead by Daylight. You know, pinging their location or something.
Darn.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
we
want to
got something a
increase
little
the
bit
amount
more
of
interesting in mind.
interactions.
What was it?
We want to increase the amount of interactions between the two
Yeah,
teams.
but
Um,
so you'll be probably be seeing cameras a lot more often as a thief, and cameras might be seeing thieves a little bit more often.
Right.
That's the goal, you know. Like, but if,
mhm.
if you know the thief wants to play stealth, then can't, you know.
Um, what's that? I I was reading something and I forgot that. Will the round time be the exact same from IPS2 or will it be different? Um, I think it's dynamic. It will have probably be a standard round time. I would assume similar to IPS2, but it can fully change. Like round timers, I'm pretty sure are going to be set up in a way where they can change, like we can have it depend on the map you're actually playing, but I can't remember that one correctly.
Yeah. The things are a lot more dynamic.
Yay.
Somebody asked about secret thieves by solving puzzles. That would be a really cool thing to do, which I think the pivot from the loot box system towards this like buy what you want system actually helps quite a lot. So that would be a really interesting thing to do. As of right now, it's definitely a lot harder to justify adding secret content when there isn't much content to begin with. So that would probably be something that there wouldn't be very much of, if at all, or maybe event related. It
Mhm.
kind of depends. I will say the idea is cool, but whether or not it would be done is a little uncertain.
Yeah. Um, hmm. Trying to Roll around. Um, any way to incentivize people using worse characters besides daily quests? Um, we're trying to push for there not being an objective bad character. Like, we don't want characters to literally just outclass each other, because that just sucks. Like, why bother making a character if the other one's just going to be factually better? So, there's going to be different playstyle thieves, but none of them are going to be the objective worst thief. Like, every thief that's considered bad, we'd want to either improve so they're not bad, or they just wouldn't actually be bad, and that person who's saying that just isn't a fan of their playstyle. AKA, we just don't really want objectively bad thieves.
Yeah. Obviously, like, there will be ones that are probably picked more often in terms of viability than others, but more or less, we wanna try to balance it out as much as possible.
Mhm.
Or- I'm gonna answer some lot earlier questions that happened while we were presenting about modifiers and open that can of
That's
worm because
probably a
I
good
realized
idea.
that they were asked but never answered, and then no one ever asked them about them again.
The curse
Um,
of gear and mods.
yeah, mostly concerns about how overpowered they are. I don't think we talked too much about how modifiers work, but like
Yep.
you can only equip like it's gonna be like I guess an upgrade sort of system. So you can equip like a certain amount of them, but you can only equip one of each modifier at a time. So you can't have like two of the same on at a
No
time.
stacking mods.
Yeah, no stacking mods. So you can have, the sprint, like if we had like a sprint, like the dash, you can dash twice in midair now rather than once. You can only have that on once.
Again, a provisional example.
Yeah, yeah, not confirmed. All right. But then you only have like I don't like two or something open modifier slots to, do something else with, like more health or more speed. Or you could do like a more extreme, more speed, even more speed, but like less health. So you go like full speed and movement sprint or something. Just I guess different ways to play the character. I guess that's kind of the goal with the modifier system. I
Mhm.
think that's something we want to play around with, I think. Modifiers with trade-offs, yes, absolutely. There's gonna be lots of those. There's gonna be ones
Excited.
with no trade-offs, but they're not super powerful or anything. But like the more
And then,
powerful ones, you're gonna have to trade. You're gonna have to
yeah,
sacrifice
super
something.
powerful ones that have big trade-offs to them. Like, that stuff is exciting.
When will this Q&A end already? You're here
We
forever.
True.
Forever and ever.
Yeah, indefinitely
We'll
like that, right?
probably end it, assuming questions continue, we'll probably end it in about, like,
I'd say
12 minutes.
2, because that's exactly 2.
That's for your time.
Okay, well,
We'll probably end
exactly
it in
12
about 12
minutes.
minutes, probably.
No.
Will there be returning special items on returning maps? Yeah, just because there won't they will not be in the same exact spot. Like, when if a map returns with the same framework, like how farm is, everything in that map will be different. None of the items will be in the same spot. Anything My kind of philosophy with it is that anything that isn't bolted to the ground will be moved, pretty much. Um, so even though those maps are returning, do not expect them to play the same, and do not expect their layouts to be the same, because things will change between those maps, like, a lot. Um, and I saw some other thing that I could answer really fast, but I'd have to scroll up to find it. One second. Oh yeah, I don't. Someone was saying, will Sprint remain the icon of the game? And do we have ideas of a new mascot? Sprint's not really the mascot. They're just kind of most popular. Um, Uh, I don't really know. A lot of our new character designs, um, they're not really designed to be popular. They're just kind of people. I mean, hoping that we don't have a character who's just objectively the popular character, because I feel personally that's a little lame. But I mean, yeah,
I have some questions I can answer.
yeah, go for it.
So, um,
Go for it.
somebody was asking about the fact that thieves will no longer be like gambled for, and what is the reason for, or what is the method to incentivize buying thieves with quote unquote worse abilities, besides like the daily missions idea? It could depend. I think a lot of it depends on just kind of how things play out. Because the example in the question that's given is like thieves getting like extra money on certain days or something. That's kind of a novel idea, but it also, and I like the idea of it being somehow connected to like what day of the week it is or whatever. But at the same time, that also would create instances where like everybody's playing the same character on one day, which might not be the best idea. Um, so I think that,
Stacks.
yeah, pretty much. I think that we do want to do more in terms of incentivizing diversifying playstyles. But at the same time, I don't really want to force it. Because if a person found a character that they really like playing and it has a diverse enough playstyle to the point where they can continuously play it, that's, I don't know if it's necessarily 100% like necessary to force somebody else or heavily influence them to play another character. As much as I'd like people to experience more of what the game has to offer, I feel less inclined to do that with IPS3 than with IPS2, because in IPS3, in theory, pretty much every character is high quality, and I'm not trying to influence people away from more uninteresting characters in IPS2 to um, like I'm not trying to get people to switch what character they're playing IPS2 to a more interesting one. So it would probably have to be something that would need tested and whatnot.
Mhm.
And then another way is, will there ever be a non-RNG way to earn non-event thieves and cameras? So IPS2, there was only really like one or two events that had it RNG based to get event thieves and cameras. It's so, I mean, that's kind of already done in IPS2, like with the event shop. But in IPS3, I definitely want it to be more based on just working towards a goal rather than getting random stuff, basically. So, yeah, I don't really want that to be RNG. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, those are the questions I got.
Oh, is anyone recording all these questions and answers? Because they
We
joined
do have an
late.
insider
Do we?
working on it,
God,
Oh,
I hope.
sick. All
I
right.
hope.
I probably agree. Agree, are you there? Can you
No, I
confirm
asked
this?
Astro.
Is
Yeah.
Astro?
Yeah.
Oh, Astro's writing stuff down.
Yay,
I
thank
see
you,
it.
Astro. Super
Yeah,
Astro winner.
Yeah.
Astro Gaming. All right. Can return to
Holy shit.
IPS3.
What the fuck?
I can't. What does that say? You know, it's just
Oh,
it's a
that the
blur. You know,
character?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't read that.
oh, I can't
I don't
read
know what you're
My
that.
talking
eyes are
about.
actually fine-tuned to not read that one specific name.
Great. All right. We got, I'm gonna lower the cooldown, and then
All
we'll
right.
Speed
probably go into
round.
like the speed round in the last like
Speed round.
5 minutes here.
Let's
Alright,
go.
give one-word answers to
All right.
every question.
All right. I'm gonna
Yes
say,
or
I'm just
no's
gonna turn off
only.
the slow mode.
No more maybes.
Something
Only yes
happened
or
in
no.
November 5th, 2023? No.
Glitch
Glitch
return,
return.
unlikely, but maybe.
Bigger
Bigger
lobby.
lobby? Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Will there be a furry into
Can I answer it seriously?
Well,
I have
will blank be returned to IPS3 be returning to IPS3? Yes.
so true.
Great question.
To Ram's question, answering that unironically, I do want to have, like I do want anthro characters to exist, like how Whiskers exists, but just more normalized. Like they're just normal people, like same as everyone else,
A
but they're
lot more than
just
2 words.
critters. Oh fuck! Shit!
Yeah, you failed.
Oh, I
Parkour in the
lost.
lobby. Yes. In fact, more.
Serious business IPS3, absolutely.
Will there be more open maps like Farm? We don't know.
Don't know, but I'd like to because I like Farm's
Yeah.
design.
Will Chloe be replaced by an actual bowling ball?
No, I like Chloe.
The developer
Remember me
exclusive return.
unserious.
Yeah.
Okay, I can go. Developer exclusive Thieves. Probably not. Nah.
Yeah, probably not. Camera
Question
Lord
for
Wen,
events.
working on it.
Seasonal events, I don't know. They're kind of like annoying to work around with the force theming and whatnot. Maybe, maybe not. Also
question for
time.
CF. Do
Well,
you like Red 40?
Sprint in IPS3. Sprint will
Red
maybe sprint with
40.
their sprint feature in
I love Red
IPS3.
40.
Ooh, so full of Red 40.
They kind
I
of
mean,
broke that.
if Sprint were to return in IPS3, she would have a sprint because everyone has a sprint now. So
Sure.
Sprint would be able to sprint.
Sprint squared.
True.
Yeah. Increased possibility for coordination between cameras, but actually there's going to be a pinging system. So yes.
Yes. There's a lot of incentivized teamwork.
Can
Yeah,
you make
lots
a
of
thief that shoots the
improved
camera,
camera
stun them?
mechanics.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you, Guru. Thank you.
Genius.
Will submissions and suggestions be changed? Hi, Highland. I just realized you're the one saying that. Will suggestions and submission.
I think they will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yar.
We'll have to see how it plays out. Definitely maps will change though. Definitely.
Yeah, I think the problem is the formatting for IPS3 submissions and just the way we do IPS3 characters is so much more in depth compared to how they were done. And if we get our ideals, then there'd be a point where I don't know if it's even worth it to go look for accessories on the toolbox. Like the best that would be doing was giving us a reference of how the character should be made. But that's our ideals.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. We want to take more control of the art style.
Will jumping consume stamina? God, no.
No, no.
Unless there is a specific character that does that, which I don't know why we would do that.
Maybe there'll be
No.
a modifier that does it.
God, that would be evil.
Well, yeah, it would be
There
a
can be
challenge
challenge
modifier.
modifiers.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you say the exact same words?
Yeah.
What?
Great minds think
Uh,
alike.
Yeah. It's so easy.
That's what
well,
challenge
IPS3
modifier.
being
Actually, I think that's a
this
reveal of challenge modifiers.
well,
Yeah.
IPS3 being the same art style, such builds have IPS2. Yeah, it's the same universe, same. It's just the general quality is just you could take a look at the teasers we posted. That's kind of what you could get for the quality. Oh god, zip lines and IPS3 maps.
Would be cool.
It would be really cool. Will you answer this question? No.
You already failed.
Sorry, will you answer this question?
There you go.
Are you
Make a
hungry for
thief.
gold today? A little.
What will the money making system be like? I mean, still gonna be based off stealing items.
Oh no.
There's gonna be a more depth to everything, basically.
It's not.
No.
I
Also
think it's
some
good.
perhaps some cool lobby mini games.
I think it'd
Perhaps.
be a good thing to emphasize, like, the cash you make from round will still be the cash you have in the lobby. Like, I don't think that would ever change from my knowledge. And
I
also,
think
like,
it's quite cool to have the
yeah,
direct
no, exactly. And then on
translation.
top of that, like, doing the opposite where you make like a $20 million in round and it equates to like $3 just sucks. That's terrible. The like thing I like a lot about IPS is how like arcadey it is in the sense of like you can make money and get a character within the first like 20 minutes of playing and then just keep doing that. There's no like incentives to grind unless you explicitly want to, which I feel like is important to distinctify. Also, I do not want an IPS3 skin. So that
Yeah. All right. Uh, Somebody's asking about how to make high quality characters. We do want to have a better submission guide for good ways to like actually design characters, especially maps. Definitely a lot of focus on the maps, but we do want to have some better guidelines for
Mhm.
how to work on things. All right, but let's
We could,
answer our last questions here because
Yeah,
it has reached the time.
I've got my last one. It would
Yeah,
be, will thieves have handmade accessories and not ones pulled from the catalog? That is the ideal. I would
yeah,
really hope we could do that, and I think it's within our scope, because given how we're having less quantity of characters, we can have more time to actually proper design them and ideally get someone to help with accessory modeling, but that is something that is difficult and may not be in initial scopes, but hopefully, like, that is the ideal that we want.
yeah. Also, I've turned off the chat, so we can answer our
Hooray.
last questions here. I do want to make the cats petable. That would be fun.
Splendid.
yeah.
Blended. Anyone want to answer Ritz cracker or peanut butter banana?
Uh, Ritz
Uh,
cracker.
what if I say, um, Cheez-Its?
You just lose. You chose the objective wrong answer.
Also,
Excuse me?
oh dear.
I lied, I hate bananas.
What is wrong with you? You hate Cheez-Its?
Yeah, I don't like cheese.
What?
Oh god, I forgot you're from fucking Wisconsin. No! I can't win this argument. You're from the literal cheese state.
It's over.
It's over. It's like
It's over.
over.
You are the first person I have ever met that does not like Cheez-Its.
You they're just I don't like them. I never did.
I cannot believe you.
I was just not good.
Goodbye.
We lost him.
Wow. All right.
Oh.
There it is. All
So my
right.
last
Well,
question.
also, we're not going to be inviting people up onto the stage. It would
I
be
think we have
funny,
one
but
person we should invite.
well, no, we're not going to be doing
One.
that just because, like, we don't we don't want people to say bad
But can I
things.
invite him? You know who it
No,
is.
we're not doing it. No, we're not doing it.
Please.
We're not
What's
doing
happening?
it.
Let
We're
him
not
come
doing it.
on.
No,
Let
we're not
him
doing it.
on.
What
It's not
happened, guys?
happening.
Let him
Nobody is
No,
on.
invited.
it's not happening.
Let
Requesting to
him.
speak.
He
Oh
raised
my
his hand.
god.
Let the
Oh,
man speak.
no.
I'm doing it.
Oh, boy.
Highland, it's your time.
Yeah, what wise
I
words do you
oh
have?
no!
He's
No!
gone.
This is the worst day ever.
All right. Thanks you, everybody. If you have any other like genuine questions, please like no joke questions. Feel free to drop them in the actual questions channel, and we can
Yeah.
possibly answer them. But yeah, thanks to everyone for sticking around for 2 hours.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye forever and ever and ever and ever.